Turn the lights on. We turn the lights. I
No,
think
today
we need to be turning a few lights on today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Warren Conley here on healthierlife.tv, coming to you from a not so sunny Hungary with my co-presenter, Mr.
Paul Bursey from just outside London in Essex.
Essex. Such a bad reputation.
No. It's all dreamed up by people in the media.
I think that's changed nowadays. But when I was living in the UK, Essex has such a bad reputation. Or the Essex girls, at least.
Yes. Well, no, it's not exactly. Yeah, I see where they're coming from, but anyway, today's subject.
Yes, 7 possible reasons why you could be cramping, muscle cramping, that is. So I thought, the subject came to me via email, and I thought muscle cramps and stuff like that. I thought that's actually something we've never spoken about, on the podcast. Is Paul and I, we deal with cellular health. That's our business, and part of our business is cellular health. And we know we've spoken about many health-related subjects. Obviously, we've been doing this for more than a year now, and but we've never spoken about muscle cramps. So I thought, okay, now's the time perhaps to talk about muscle cramps. Perhaps it's a little bit late, maybe, because it is the end of the summer in the Northern Hemisphere. But for any of you folks watching from the Southern Hemisphere, as you're leading into summertime, exiting winter, this may be of use to you. So, look, I've got 7 reasons why, but there are potentially more reasons why, but we don't need to go into those right now. They're not as pertinent or as necessary as the 7 that I've listed. But Paul, perhaps you can enlighten the viewers as to one possible reason why we might be suffering from muscle cramps.
I think I have suffered from muscle cramps. They don't happen that often for me, but it's normally when I've done some fierce training, and or if I've had a really hard football game, running up and down the line of the flag, or actually refereeing the game, and I've had a lack of fluids. Yeah. So it's normally a combination of things for me. And of course, we did do one on electrolytes. We did do one,
true,
which again has a big link to this. So
yes, definitely. So that you've kind of just touched on 2 reasons there why we may be suffering from muscle cramps. So if anybody that's listening or watching to this now, and if you have suffered, pay attention, okay? Because muscle cramps do happen from time to time with some people, without actually for no apparent reason, really. And then there are other biological reasons why it happens too. So you mentioned not being hydrated enough, and that's the first one on my list because it is kind of the most obvious one. One thing to remember, folks, is that our body is more than 70% water. So if you're not hydrating yourself enough, and in particular with certain electrolytes, you're going to have muscle cramps at some point eventually. And those electrolytes will be things like calcium, potassium, and sodium. And so they are very important to make sure that your body is replenished with fluids as often as possible, so that you don't have these muscle cramps happening where you could be walking in a shopping mall, for example, and all of a sudden, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but this happened to me before, where you're just walking around and randomly, and all of a sudden your calf muscle goes or your hamstring goes, and that all of a sudden, or you're sitting in a cinema, for example. I've been sitting in a cinema once before when that happened, and all of a sudden my leg just went bang, and I was like, and you don't want to shout out because everyone's engaged in watching a movie, but that happens, and that's because my body was not replenished with those electrolytes. So that's what's that?
It's like a film about maybe someone's been captured as a prisoner of war and they're being interrogated, and then someone's pulling the switch. That's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Because especially when your leg shoots in a direction which you can't control, and then it's like the person that's sitting in front of you all of a sudden gets this jar in the back of their seat.
And you can't lay down and you can't stand up. Either one doesn't work.
It's happened to me in an aeroplane before as well.
Yeah.
Okay. But so the one is hydration. So it's imperative that we do always keep our body hydrated, regardless. It's not necessarily just for cramps or for cramping, but our body and our brain is more than 70% water. So we want to make sure that we have plenty fluids going down our throat on a regular basis. The other one that Paul touched on now was overexerting yourself. And this is another factor which many people don't bear in mind, they don't take into account, is they start exercising for the first time or start running in particular. Running is a very common one. And where do you what do you think the symptom for that is, Paul, when you're running and you're pushing yourself too fast, too quickly?
Lactic acid?
Okay, that's going to be later on in a run, but especially in the beginning stage of a run, if you're running.
It could be that you haven't warmed up properly. And that brings on the other thing about how to warm up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
but the cramping is what I'm alluding to. So you get muscle, you get stomach cramps, you get cramps in the side of your stomach here. And that's also very often because you're pushing yourself too hard, too fast, and then your body's not hydrated enough as well. And then you get these cramps, you get stomach cramps. I used to suffer it a lot if I was doing runs when I was a kid, because I'd push myself too fast, too hard. And I'd end up getting stomach cramps because of that. So I'd either have to stop or slow down. So
there's also a link, like when I used to be an athlete when I was young, that I used to suffer from nerves just before the race.
Okay.
And that was a form of stomach cramps as well, although probably imaginary in a lot of ways. But it definitely is something to think about. Well, I think as long as you know what it is, and how to deal with it, then it's fine. You just have to accept it a lot of the time, because it is sometimes there's nothing you can do about it.
You just got to push through it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is also going back to what I mentioned in the beginning, is in the southern hemisphere they're going into summer, and we're coming out of summer. So for us, this could have been brought up a little bit earlier, but is the high temperatures as well. In Central Europe, we've been having a lot of heat waves this summer, and high temperatures can also bring on muscle cramping because you're losing those electrolytes very quickly. And this is what happens when we sweat. When we sweat, it's our body's way of cooling itself down, and when it sweats, it pushes out those electrolytes, that potassium, that sodium, calcium in the system. So because it's flushing out the toxins, so to speak, in one way or another, and then we're losing those electrolytes. So high temperatures is another factor in any case, but I think anybody with a common sense would know that if they're exercising or training in high temperatures, they will be supplementing themselves with a lot of fluids. But common sense doesn't always prevail.
No, it doesn't. No.
Just
because you never know how much each individual's how much fluid they're losing, because some lose more than others.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, when I used to train as an athlete, I used to train at the hottest time of day in Spain for obvious reasons, and that's why people like black athletes are so good, because they are in the heat all the time.
Yeah, very often. Yeah.
Whereas us weak Westerners, we're in the rain and things like that. So you if you're not used to running in the sun, I love running in the sun. Not so much now, but when I was training,
I love training in the sun.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Just got to make sure you put your suntan lotion on.
Andrea keeps asking me, like, why do you go out when it's the hottest time of the day? I said 2 reasons. A, there's no one else around, so I get to use everything myself. and B, I enjoy it. I prefer training in the heat, in the sun, than in the cold, really.
The thing is, when you come back to running in a normal temperature, it's so much easier if you've trained in the sun.
True.
And again, it's the same with altitude and humidity and all these types of things, you know. But again, you've always got to watch what fluids you're taking, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Definitely. But the thing that gets me is that it's, the worst ones are when you're in bed and you're laying there, you're all comfortable, nice, and all of a sudden you get hit by this sudden and involuntary contraction of the muscle, and it drives you mad. The pain is severe. I mean, look, they're harmless because most of the times they're harmless because what happens is you get over it pretty quickly and go, what was that all about?
Except for which age group? Except for which age? Because this is a very relevant thing when you're sleeping.
Okay.
You get muscle cramps, but for which age group do you think that's quite prevalent?
I would imagine that someone in the care home.
Okay, not necessarily, not really, unless they have a medical condition.
Oh no, I know that obviously when you have things like cramps, it can mean that there's you've got some underlying health problems.
Yeah, or you're taking medication, which is another factor.
Oh yeah.
Muscle cramps, especially things like.
I was thinking of age-wise.
Yeah, no, age is a factor, but I'm thinking specifically with sleep, as you mentioned sleep when you're sleeping, and with kids when they're when they're experiencing what we call as growing pains. They can suffer with cramps at nighttime, especially at nighttime when they're sleeping, and science doesn't know why it happens that way yet, and what really causes growing pains. But the fact of the matter is that often with kids, when they are experiencing those growth spurts, it happens at night when they're sleeping for obvious reasons, because one of the reasons we can be quite sure of is that our body regenerates when we're sleeping. And this is when it typically will happen. But we don't know why exactly. Maybe they do now. But the last I read is that science doesn't really know why it happens at nighttime when kids are sleeping. Specifically why.
Well, I mean, as I say, it's happened to me. It happened to me more at night than any other time.
Okay.
So it must be that your body's trying to recover, for the next day. And it's something you've done during the day or not done, as the case may be, that add together, and it can't rest. It can't rest and recuperate until it's done something. This
whatever that something is, and remember it's hormonal too, hey. So especially for kids growing, it's a hormonal.
Everything's linked, and it's all about synergy at the end of the day. That's my favorite word.
So favorite word, synergy.
Synergy, yeah, because it's like a puzzle. You have all the parts of the puzzle working, and sometimes they don't.
Well, life is a puzzle, isn't it? It's very puzzling, especially these days.
There was one other thing though. The older people do lose a lot of muscle mass as they get older.
Yeah,
and their remaining muscle can get overstressed.
Yeah, so, especially if they put on weight at the same time as well.
Yeah.
So this is another factor. You mentioned if someone's in a care home, age is another factor as well, and that's often related to inactivities. And then on top of that, there's another. So age and this poor circulation. So very often, age and poor circulation they run concurrent together. But some youngsters also have very poor circulation due to inactivities, and there's another factor called claudication. So claudication is when the arteries get thinner, so there's not enough blood and oxygen to push through.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know the name of it. So
okay, so it's not the thinning of the blood vessel, the actual vessel itself, but it's the blood vessel gets thinner. So it contracts, so to speak.
Narrowing of the arteries.
Yeah. Okay. So that's another factor to that could, but that's all to do with poor circulation. All right.
Yeah.
medication, I want to go back to the medication, and this is something that is quite prevalent in the Western world these days with regards to statins. So many people are taking statins for cholesterol reasons, and that can be another factor relating to muscle cramping, okay? And then diuretics is another one, another important thing. So many elderly folks are on diuretics or statins. And, you know, obviously with diuretics, you're releasing a lot of fluid, excess fluid in your body. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because you want to make sure that you keep replenishing that with water or, you know, hydrating fluids at the same time, because a diuretic is going to get rid of excess fluids that builds up in certain areas of the body. For example, you know, a joint issue or something like that, you know, or a back problem. So, you know, it's going to help to flush out toxins or waters that collect in inflamed areas within the body. But at the same time, you still want to be replenishing your body regularly with fresh water and, you know, hydrating fluids at the same time. So medication can be a big factor with that, with muscle cramps.
As I said, it can also be the sign of something else that's wrong. Like if you don't know you've got diabetes, type 2 diabetes, that can give you muscle cramps. If you've got nerve damage, it's another one. Plus, the other two are liver and thyroid disorders. So again, you know, you can. So if you have muscle cramps and you keep getting them, you really need someone to investigate
for you
why you're getting them.
Yeah.
All right, and I do that.
Unfortunately, you know, the internet is the internet is a great tool for finding information these days. Yet, on the flip side of that coin, it's also a potential hazard for the average person out there that doesn't want to go to a doctor or see a medical professional or a health professional like a physiotherapist or something like that. So they try to self-diagnose themselves, and then they end up trying to treat that self-diagnosis, and it's not always the case. Yet, you know, you're not always correct in your self-diagnosis. Sometimes you are, many times you're not. So do go and see either a medical professional or a health professional and let them assess the situation for you. You know, find out the information by all means. Go and find out the information for yourself. But once you feel or you believe that this is the condition, at least go seek help and advice from a professional as to what to do then, because it may not be the case, you know, and something else perhaps needs to be done.
That's right. I think the key is this: that if you've got a problem, whatever it is in the body, your body normally, not always, normally tells you there's a problem in some way.
Yeah,
it gives you signs. So by all means, as I say, go to Google or whatever you want to do and see if you can identify. But at the end of the day, you are quite right. You need to go and speak to someone who knows what they're talking about, so they can look at all aspects, because there could be 6 reasons why you're getting that muscle, or one of 6 reasons you're getting that muscle cramp, and you're looking at the wrong few. So you need to, and it takes proper investigation.
Also, I mean, and you and I, we've kind of touched on this in the past before. You know, look, what I'm about to say, don't get me wrong, medication has its role for us, okay, in modern day society, and it helps save many lives. But unfortunately, because people have become so dependent on medication, they've moved away from the thinking of what is the source of the problem.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and this very often you could have had a hard workout for the first time in 10, 15, 20 years. You have a workout, you push yourself, you start getting muscle cramps. You've listened to this podcast, you think to yourself, that's just because I pushed myself too hard, which is one of the causes of muscle cramps, is pushing yourself too hard, too fast. And then you leave it at that, okay? And then maybe you go stretch, you rest for a few days, and you get back at it. But that may just be the underlying, that may just be the surface cause. That the trigger may have been the exercising, but there could be something else underlying that's actually the real root cause for the muscle cramping. You may have a displaced disc in your back, which you never realized you had in the first place. You go for a 10K run or a 5K run for the first time in 10 years, and you start experiencing muscle cramps, okay, which is obviously going to happen, but you don't realize that it's actually a disc that's the problem. And I'm just using it as an example. So go and seek what is the root cause. Don't just think it's, medication is going to help you. It may take away some inflammation or pain, but it's also, again, it's been shown that, for example, back creams, back rubs, and tablets that help with muscle pain in the back and things like that don't really help the issue altogether. A lot of it is psychological.
They mask it as well.
Mask it, yeah.
Which sometimes you need masking if you're in the middle of an event and you want to get through to the end of the event, maybe.
No, but after that, even for the work environment.
Yeah.
You don't want to be sitting at work in your office or in a meeting in pain. So you take something that's going to mask the pain to help you get through that day. But go seek professional advice, please. Don't just leave it. There's one other which neither one of us has yet touched on, and because it doesn't apply to either one of us directly. Which one do you think that might be?
No idea.
Monthly cycle.
Sorry?
The lady's menstrual cycle.
Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, I did. When I was doing my research, I did see that.
So the uterus muscles will tighten up in order to push out that blood and any tissues, excess tissue. So that can also cause muscle cramps as well. All right.
You were saying about statins, as you and I are well aware that because someone's taking statins, maybe there's alternatives to that where they haven't got to take them for the rest of their life. That's all I'll say on that matter, because obviously everyone's individual and everyone's got their own views on whether they want to take drugs for the rest of their life, but there are alternatives.
Oh, but
always alternatives.
Just to add to what you're saying there and alluding, giving some more insightful thought for people to not insightful thought, but more subject for thought, is that statins have been now shown to have a lot more long-term adverse effects on our body. So people are taking statins for cholesterol, but it's doing a lot more damage to us than is necessary. So you don't necessarily, that's not a drug that you want to be dependent on for the rest of your life. Definitely not. So
yeah, I think that you mentioned cholesterol there, and I know we're going off piste a little bit here, but they give you a cholesterol test because it's cheap. Okay, maybe the one they should be giving you is a homocysteine check. The only unfortunate thing is it's probably like 50 times more expensive. Okay, that's the reason you don't have a homocysteine check. Okay, so it's always worth discovering maybe a better alternative, even if you have to pay for it.
What is a homocysteine?
No idea. I haven't got a clue. But I do know from many years ago that was one I was told. A doctor told me that.
Okay.
The reason we don't promote it is because it's so expensive. Which I get, I understand, but it's more accurate.
Okay, so just seeing as that we are deliverers of the truth and information, homocysteine. There we go. Homocysteine is a type of amino acid, a chemical your body uses to make proteins. Okay, normally vitamin B12, B6, and folic acid.
There is an actual test, though.
Okay.
Cholesterol isn't always the best indicator. It is an indication.
No.
It is an indication, but it's not the best indication.
It's not the be all and end all. It's
like everything else. It leads on to something else. When once you have that cholesterol test. You've got to start looking a bit deeper, and the investigation's got to be much, much better.
A homocysteine test ranges in from $10 to $85.
There you go. Yeah.
That's $10 to $85. So you can actually order it online. Homocysteine blood test. You can order them online as well. And this is in the USA, I think, as well.
Yeah.
But
So
right,
Kemi,
there you have it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we all have things wrong with us, and cramps are one of those things. They're nasty. They're immediate. And sometimes when you've had them, you forget about them. But I think you need to do a little bit of investigation to find out why you had it, because it probably will happen again.
Yeah, sure.
It's just that they don't happen common. They're not common, apart from the ladies, but they're not common, and that's why we tend to, it'll be all right in the morning. But maybe
and then when it is all right, we leave it. We forget it.
That's right. And we forget about it to the next time. But as I say, one of the big things, if you remember to get your electrolytes right, and it's mineral depletion, a lot of it, and dehydration. So if you can get that right, there's a chance that you may not have any more muscle cramps.
I think that's probably the most common reasoning for cramps.
I'll just give you a little story about that. And I think I've said it before, but I was working one weekend. I think my girlfriend had gone away, so I had the house to myself. So, and I walked on the Sunday. I walked down to the Tesco's, local Tesco's, to get some drink or food or whatever. And I was hallucinating going down the road. Now, I don't take any unprescribed drugs, so it wasn't that.
Well, even prescribed drugs can make you.
Even prescribed drugs, I don't take any. So anyway, so when I got back home, I sat down and thought about it. I thought, I haven't had any drinks this weekend, apart from a few cups of tea. I'd had nothing to drink.
Wow!
So I worked it out that it must be the fact that I hadn't drunk enough, over the weekend. Lo and behold, I've taken care of that now. Never had it since.
So you just had a beer and that was it, eh?
Yeah, I won't drink it. Don't drink at home. But so one of the things I do, and it goes to what you do each day, I have 30 ounces, which is just under a litre, of fluid first thing in the morning to make sure at least I've had something.
Right? Because also another thing that many people don't realize is that while our body is resting at night, we're using up a lot of the fluids that are in the body already to help with the body to regenerate. Plus, we lose that some of that evaporates through our skin as we're sleeping at night, particularly in warmer conditions. Also wrapping yourself up underneath the duvet that gets you evaporating liquids. So people don't realize very often they honestly don't realize the importance of drinking water when you wake up first thing in the morning. Now have that glass or two of water before you have your cup of tea or coffee, please, because as nice as it is to have that cup of coffee first thing in the morning, that's a diuretic, and that's going to force your body to get rid of more fluid. So you want to make sure that you fill it up first before, and because the body's already depleted.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I on a good day now, I have 2 cups of tea a day. That's it.
Good.
And no coffee, and maybe the odd hot chocolate or something. But again, they do affect your fluid intake.
Sure, they do.
And beer.
Well, teas are typically your better ones because not all teas are caffeinated.
No.
So you can get away with drinking tea through the day as long as it's not, if it's even green tea has got it in there. So
yeah, that's right. They all have even the best ones have a little bit in there.
Yeah. So, but your herbal teas and stuff like that, those are generally quite safe to consume through the day. But just make sure you're drinking lots of water in any case, just to be safe.
Yeah.
All right. So those are your action points, folks. Anyway, so for those of you that are watching and listening, those are your action points. Make sure you drink plenty of water through the day. exercise, but exercise consistently and pace yourself. Don't push yourself too hard, unless you know what you're doing, obviously. And look after your wife when she's going through the menstrual cycle.
Yes, dear. What was it you wanted?
So
let's not go down that
route. Okay.
Have a fantastic weekend, everyone.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of the week and have a lovely week. Not yet the weekend, Paul. Don't wish the week away.
Oh, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
It's weekend every day for me. Sorry. That's
I woke up this morning, I was thinking, okay, today's Thursday, so what are we going to do today? That's what I woke up thinking. Today's Thursday, I've got this and this and this and this. I realized, hey, hang on a second, it's only Wednesday.
Yeah. Because we used to do this call on a Friday, that's what it was.
True, yeah. So I wasn't even thinking about the podcast when I woke up this morning. There's the things I had to do. I was thinking of other stuff for tomorrow. But then, I made the mistake on Monday, remember? I was saying, we'll see you all on Friday. And you said, Friday? What's going on Friday? So anyway.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to go away and plot world domination. So, we'll be reconvene on Monday on successcafe.tv.
Sure.
And I have no idea what we're going to be talking about, but I'm sure we'll work something out. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Mm-hmm. And same for you, Warren. And we'll speak soon.
Arrivederci.